When was the last time you took a leap of faith, trusting that everything is going to work out? Do you crave growth, or are you merely content with the status quo? If you want more out of your life, out of your career, and out of your relationships, you are in the right place. Take the leap and discover how to create a life by design rather than living it by default. Real success starts with you. Now here's your host, Colleen Biggs.
All right. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Take the Leap. I am your host, Colleen Biggs, and I'm just excited to be here today because I have been in conference planning. I overbooked myself, I would say, quite a bit in the last few months. We're recording this in the fall, winter time. You're listening to it probably in 2024, and I'm just getting ready in the next 2 days to promote and host our Empower and Elevate conference for women. And it's sold out. We sold out of tickets a couple weeks ago. So I opened it up for March 22nd. So yes, the link is below. You can get your ticket for March 22nd. It still will be in the Phoenix area by the time you log on. There'll be a location telling you exactly where it will be in the Valley. We're doubling it this year. We're not going in for 100. We're going to have 200, maybe even more women in the room. That's what I call the fighter's formula, which I'll have to tell you, Clifford B. Starks Jr. is here today. And when I met him on a summit, I was like, this guy looks so familiar to me. Who is Clifford? So I went and looked him up and I was like, of course, he's a UFC fighter. I'm a huge UFC fan. And so he looked so familiar to me when I looked him up. And of course, I sweet talked my way in to get him on our show today because that's what I do. And I'm excited because he, has created the fighter's formula. And because I'm a black belt, him and I have so much in common. And I think you have to be a fighter or have fought or have, done something like that for years to really, get it at first. But we're going to be talking about the fighter's formula today. But before I get to Clifford, I do want to make sure that I thank our sponsor of today's show, which is Animated Holiday Lights. And at that company, they're dedicated to transforming spaces into extraordinary wonderlands through their expertly crafted permanent light installations. And again, this is something that doesn't have to just be put up over the holidays. It's something you can have put up to prepare for the holidays or maybe even your favorite sports team. So with a team of skilled professionals and a passion for spreading joy and cheer, they strive to create captivating light displays that leave a lasting impression, and you never need to climb on a ladder again. Their lights can dance to music, any song, any color, any holiday. From residential homes to commercial properties, their permanent light installations are designed to enhance the beauty and festive spirit of any location. They take pride in their attention and detail, using high quality materials and advanced techniques to create stunning visual experiences that surpass expectations. Join them in this magical journey as they bring the holiday spirit to life through their dancing permanent light installations. Explore their portfolio and see the transformative power of their work at animatedholidaylights.com. Let them create an enchanting holiday experience that will leave a lasting impression. And if anyone has seen my house, all you have to do is go follow me on Instagram, Colleen Biggs. Yes, I'm the one kicking like I'm snapping a board. That is me. You will be able to see what animated holiday lights look like because they are installed on my house and all over my yard. It kind of looks like animation threw up in my front yard. Clifford, that's kind of what it looks like. But it's super awesome. Kids love it. They dance to it. There's snow over, in Halloween, there's fog, and there's just families all over the place enjoying the joy of the holiday spirit. And I love it because I don't have to decorate the outside of my house. It's so perfect. I used to be the one on the ladder. Okay, let's talk about Clifford. He's a lover and a fighter. Oh, I love that. He enjoys the waves of life. He loves being where the action is and thriving in every area of his life. He also enjoys connecting with those who do the same in their life, knowing there is always a new and amazing experience to have along the way. He has focused on living life to the fullest since he was young due to some early misfortunes, and is grateful for the trials and tribulations he has gone through as they have built his resilience. He had the opportunity to become a collegiate athlete, a UFC fighter, a business coach, an influencer, and a leader for his family, friends, and community. He knows the only limitation we have in life comes down to the stories we tell ourselves. Clifford, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
This is really exciting because you and I have had several conversations, and you know how much I enjoy that fighter's mentality. And I know it wasn't easy for you. You lost 80 pounds of weight. You fought in the UFC in less than a year. And they told you that that couldn't be done. Your trainers told you that, right? From the very beginning. How many of us get you can't do that. That can't be done. But you didn't let it stop you. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah. You get that a lot, at least from my perspective in the beginning. And then as you go through it, you get it less and less, because one thing that I say is, what is your next 11? When you get to that 11 where people don't even realize what you have and what you're capable of, you can get to the next 11. Kind of like your leap formula, which I really, really like. It's about leaping forward and seeing who you can become through the process and appreciating and respecting the process.
Yeah. I love that you said that. Back in 2019, I traveled around the nation to 10 different cities and states, and I was spreading the word about my community and bringing women together and getting leaders that were local on panels and serving lunch. And so I was like, I want to do that again, because once we hit COVID, we weren't able to do that. So instead of just gathering some women and getting, like I did in Scottsdale back in 2019, I had 45 women in the room. I was like, that was a really beautiful room. We had a lot of women. I was like, let's just do 100. Let's just get 100 women in the room. Like, why not? Why? I mean, sure. Right. So that's what I had created with the Empower and Elevate conference. And we sold out. And it's like, wow, why did I even put a ceiling on that and stop myself, at 100 when I could have done more? So I'm shocked at the number of people. And I think, Clifford, it's an astounding number of individuals, which you had said, they tell themselves these stories. So when you were brand new in the UFC, it had to be intimidating because you were coming amongst fighters that had been now in the organization, or individuals maybe that were more seasoned than you at that time, coming out of being a collegiate athlete. So what was that like for you to have to keep going, right? To have that fuel to keep going?
Like my fuel comes from my heart. And we're often taught to listen to our head. Our head's job is to keep us safe. And it's kind of a conundrum, because to be safe, you cannot truly grow. And so when you're going through a process, your head it wants to keep you in this box. I call it has like a governor, and it wants to keep you small. It wants to keep you. And when you stretch it, it's like, okay, we've stretched enough. It's like, no, we can stretch it more. And then you stretch it, and then you start realizing, like, oh, your brain's full of crap. Like it's scared. It wants to play safe. Yeah. And that's okay. You can respect it for wanting to play safe, but you also, you don't let it guide you, you guide it. And so I really, really focus on guiding it in the best way that I can. And little things like kinesthetically, the way you feel about something, the way you're moving, the way you're acting, the way you're speaking, all of those things matter. And so I remember my coaches were shaking me, like they were shaking my body, getting me ready to go. And it made me feel more ready because my body was moving. And that's where I'm like, I'm an action taker. I take action. It doesn't mean I feel the way that I want to feel. It doesn't even mean that I'm thinking the things that I want to think. But I know if I take enough action, I'll start feeling the way that I want to feel. in higher tense situations,
Mm.
and I'll start thinking the way that I want to think. So it was an absolute huge blessing for me as I went through my process.
Oh man, you're the second athlete I've heard that from. And, I've been saying it till I was blue in the face. So lesson number 1 for today for all of our listeners is stay in action. Have you watched the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary? My son told me about it. He's like, "Oh, have you watched Arnold Schwarzenegger?" And I said, "No, I haven't, but it's something I can look at over the weekend." So I did. And the one thing that he said that I looked at my husband, I go, that right there, what he just said is so true. He said it in a way that probably wasn't as appropriate or how I would say it. He's like, "I'm tired of all the whiny babies out there." He's like, everyone wants to work out or get big, but no one wants to put in the work. And he says, I don't have depression. I don't have anxiety. I don't have this contemplation. I don't have these thoughts of not doing it or can I, am I not going to be able to do it? He said, because every day I get up and I just do it. Every day I just get up and I practice. Every day I apply myself. Every day I'm working toward a goal. Every day I'm just moving forward. There is no time to sit and contemplate anything. And I thought, that's it right there. To me, that is the living above the standard formula I talk about. That is like your fighter's formula, right? Which we'll get into. You have to be in motion. You've got to be moving forward all the time. If you are not, then you're stalled. And then that's where people get that I'm stuck. When you're stuck, you're not moving forward. I've hit a hurdle. That's not stuck. That's okay. Where's the opportunity? What do I need to do? How do I get around this? Because it's a hurdle, right? So my job is to figure out how to get over it, around it, through it. What do I need to do to get on the other side? Because that's in my way right now. So talk to me about the fighter's formula, Clifford. Tell us about that.
When I went, it was funny because it came about. I had my first speech. And I completely bombed. And the reason I bombed, it was inspirational. People felt things, but they didn't have any actual steps to take. They just felt really good. Like, okay, I feel good and I don't know what to do with any of this. And my speaking coach said, well, take a client that you've worked with and then work backwards. And so I looked at a transformation that I took someone through, and then I worked that transformation. And ultimately, if we feel a certain way about something, we'll become the thing that we want to become, like
That's
every
right.
single time. And so I put these pieces together, and I first put them together linearly because I thought it was a linear process. And I realized, like, no, this is a cycle, and people go through it. I get it again and again. If they really want to get to like their optimum, their new optimum is going through the cycle again. And so the formula is about getting your feelings, because the feelings are the bridge to thoughts and actions. I would act on things because I knew I would feel a certain way through the action. It's not that I felt that way when I acted. It's that I knew my actions would take over eventually. I know people constantly, they go, well, which is first, the chicken or the egg? I go, I don't effing care. If you're a chicken, be a chicken. If you're an egg, be an egg.
That's right.
Do you have to think through it? Do you have to act through it? What are you going to do? You said you want this. That's what you said. And say it with intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, start with that and stop BSing yourself and allowing others to BS you and turn into this, oh, well, I got to do this because society said this and this is over here because I have to do it this way. No, do it your way. Do it the way you want to do it and drive into it.
1,000%. That right there, that's like the golden nugget of the day. It doesn't matter what other people think, right? You have to be the one. And it goes all the way back to Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. Think and grow rich, not do and grow rich. Yeah. Think and grow rich. And in the very beginning of the book, which I've written on almost every single board for every client training I've ever done, for any retreat that I've ever had, the first thing that they see when they walk into a room written on a flip chart is thoughts or things.
Yeah.
Whatever you think, It's going to be absolutely true, and I can't talk you out of it. What
Yeah.
you believe is what you believe. So if you believe you can, you'll do it. If you believe you can't, you're absolutely right, because you won't. And so,
And the only belief I had too, of all things, was that I believe I could do it. It had nothing to do with my feelings. It had nothing. Even when I did do it, I didn't feel like I was the person who had done it. I just knew that I could do it. I had the belief system, and I didn't realize how powerful that was for people.
you said your staff shook you before you stepped into the octagon. I keep going back to that because UFC is just like one of my favorite things. And I think we grow so much when we put ourselves out there. Every single time I stepped on the mat in Taekwondo, I didn't just go for my black belt. I competed because I wanted to be a district champ. I wanted to be a state champ, And every time I stepped on that mat, you never knew the skills of the other person coming at you or what was going to happen. I had to visualize and rely on what I knew and what I felt and, what I wanted to do in the moment. How was that like for you when you were preparing for, to step into that octagon? Did your team have you visualize winning? We hear a lot about that. Is that, part of the fighter's formula?
Yeah. So I would visualize winning and losing. Doing both.
Interesting. Tell
going
us,
through
Clifford.
the process. Well, I want to know what I'm going to do when things are working. So yeah, I'd go through the process of seeing myself winning, seeing myself losing, and not actually losing the fight. Like I always see myself getting my hand raised. It's the most important piece. But I see myself in not the greatest of positions because I want to know how I'm going to respond if I'm in a bad position. The one thing that I know is life is not always rainbows and fluffy bunny tails. Like it can get really, really hard and dirty and nasty and ugly. And that guy's trying to do the same thing I'm trying to do to them. So I want to make sure my mind's right, regardless of the position that I get into. And then from there, I let my habits take over. And this is, I did not even know this until I got out of fighting and I really, really started coaching. I'm like, no one's trying to F up. Like no one's waking up and saying, how can I screw my life up today? They just have faulty habits. It's the habits. Because your habits either are going to take over for the right way or they're going to take over for the wrong way. And some people will just say like, I suck. I'm this. I'm not good. No, it's their habits suck. They're not good. They don't work for them. If you have the right habits, it doesn't matter how your brain's doing because your brain's just doing what it does. Oh, I'm scared. You just go with your heart. Just keep going with your heart. The habits will take over. The good ones will take over. And if they don't, then step back, adjust, and say, okay, which habits served me and which habits didn't? And start letting go on the ones that don't in tense flow-like situations and start holding on to the ones that do. And just keep practicing that.
Man, I'm just like erupting with questions and wanting to unravel all of this. So going back to the very beginning when you said, I envision myself winning and losing, but I always have my hand raised. And losing might be that you got yourself in a position, right, on the ground or on the mat where maybe you got hit and you start bleeding really bad. Or maybe someone got you in a leg lock, right? Or they have you in a position where you have to now realize that if you let your mental take over, it's like a runner. Anyone that's ever been a runner, like I was a runner for a long time, your mental will give out long before. Like, I can't run anymore. I can't run anymore. I only have 3, if you tell yourself you only have 3 miles left, you only have 2 miles left, you've got this, you can do anything, then you'll make it because your physical body won't give out. Like your physical body wouldn't give out, at that point. And I love to watch the fighters fight to the very end, no matter what, even if it's a bloody fight, it's like they're just putting it aside. They're not letting it affect them. They're not focusing on that. Because if they did, that would just consume them in the fight, and I've watched fighters give up I've watched them. You can see the
Mhm.
change in them and watch them give up. That was a mental decision. That actually wasn't their habits. They overrode their habits with that mental decision. So then let's get to the habits, because you are totally right on that. The habits are what drive you. It's why I teach peak performance habits. When, people are like, Colleen, you're so disciplined. How do you not eat chocolate? How do you not eat, carbs? How do you not eat sugar? I'm like, well, because I have habits set up that I work on a regular basis every day. And those are really what drive me and protect me. And, I set up parameters for myself. Like, I don't buy pasta. It doesn't sit in where I can cook it. Because if it did, maybe I would have a weak moment. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So we all know we're human and have weak moments. We all know that. So by creating those habits, those become instinctual, which are going to assist you with this fighter's formula for success. They always will. How many people have you seen, Clifford, jump up on a stage to give a speech and it's so canned and so scripted, they're not reading the room, and you're sitting there kind of uncomfortable, like they're not even paying
Yeah.
attention to how people are reacting in the
Yeah.
room. There's like, they've sucked all the energy out, dude, SOS, like you got to call someone in. This is not going well.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's, there's a saying, and I actually got this from T. Harv Eker, your inner controls the outer. I didn't realize how true that was. Again, I was an action taker. And so in taking action, I know lessons will be learned. Like, that's the one thing that I knew. I knew for sure that when I take an action, a lesson is going to be learned. But I didn't know I was strengthening my internal game. And maybe I should have been aware of it, because I've been in personal development since I was a teenager. I love this stuff, but I'm in it because I just love it. I'm not even in it because, like, oh, I need to get this result. And so since I need to get this result, I need this. I'm like, no, I just love this thing and I get results because of that thing. And I just didn't know I was getting the results. And as I got older, I'm like, crap, now I gotta let people know that their results are more of an internal game than an external game.
Absolutely, it is. And I'm glad that you said that. I've been reading a lot of Robert Kiyosaki's books lately, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a new one I just started this week. And he was talking about how many people's thoughts on financial literacy are what causes them to stay poor or middle class. It's based on your thinking patterns and the way that we've been taught. And so he was saying, he was talking a little bit about Warren Buffett. He was talking a little bit about Donald Trump, because he was talking about people that had billions of dollars. And he said, if you struggle writing a $400 check for something, or debt for 400, or even, someone that might have debt for 25,000, he said, there's been times where Warren Buffett and Donald Trump have told me, they've been in debt 800 million and didn't see it. Didn't know how they were, didn't have a clear path of how they were going to get out of it. But it's the way that you think differently to solve the solution that's going to allow you, because of their habits, just like T. Harv Eker teaches in his book, you fall to the temperature of what you're comfortable with when it comes to money, right? Their habits are, well, my baseline's at, 1 billion, right? If Donald Trump's is at 1 billion, if that's his baseline, then if he falls below that, that might be uncomfortable for him, right? So I love that you said that, because if we don't raise the bar, if we don't change the temperature, as T. Harv Eker says, if we don't know what that looks like and we don't change that on purpose, then we will always just keep falling back to that, what I call that circle of comfortability. You just stay in this circle. It never expands. You and I have done things of taking a lot of leaps forward where we really didn't know what was going to happen. It was like, okay, they say I can't fight in the UFC in less than a year. There's no way any fighter has ever been able to do that. Well, then you did it. And they also said, you can't run a 4-minute mile. Your heart will blow up. Well, everyone that's ran a 4-minute mile has never had a heart blow up. And as soon as the first person did it and everyone knew it was possible, then a bunch of people behind that first person did it too. They just need to
Yep.
like know it's possible. So how does someone get to that place in your fighter's formula? You know, how do they get to that place where they know it's possible? Because you and I, we're comfortable with taking leaps, and I've lost a lot of money, gained a lot of money, financial risks, same, jobs. I've done things like, sure, yeah, I can do that. And then I'm like, I've never done that before. So I'm going to have to quickly figure out how to make that happen. But I can do it because I believe in myself.
Absolutely. So I had with the fighter's formula, I'll go over the emotions that people want to feel, right?
Yeah.
Clarity, confidence, commitment, game plan, passionate action, unshakable faith, extreme responsibility, and self-mastery. Now, I know that's a mouthful. So what I do, I break it up. There's three things: your mind, your heart, and your skill. When your mind's right, when your heart's right, when your skill's right, you become this unstoppable individual. And there's three things that you can do, and they're actually super, super simple. That's the funny thing. The first thing is monkey see, monkey do. Who are you around? Who are you surrounding yourself with? I guarantee you look at your 5 friends and you're probably doing the same stuff they're doing. If you're wondering, why my habits suck? Look at your friends, and I'm sure they're going to give you some answers. And if you say, oh man, my habits are amazing, look at your friends, and I'm sure they're going to give you some answers. So monkey see, monkey do. I don't care what you do. I want you to do what works for you. So if you're great with where you're at, great. Keep doing what you're doing. If you want something different, great. Find out what you're doing and do something different. So then the second is what we hear is programmed into us. We cannot help ourselves. And here's what was interesting to me. I'm such a driver and a fighter that if people are telling me naysaying, dirty, down stuff, it just fires me up anyway. It gives me fuel anyway. But if you're not getting fuel from that, get the hell away. Get out of it. It doesn't serve you. When I talk about hold on to what serves you and let go of what doesn't, I hold on to what serves Cliff. Everything serves someone differently. Only you can answer that. But ask yourself, am I in a place that's actually giving me energy, or am I in a place that's really taking my energy away? And even when it comes to money blocks, I've had them. Absolutely. I still have them. And so what I'm doing is I'm hanging around amazing people like Colleen over here who are just, they're flowing. They're in this place because we're always learning to flow somewhere else. I'm never done flowing in different things. Yes, I could teach a person how to be a high performer. Yes, I can teach a person how to think about their business differently and even expand their mind. But there's always going to be something that I can learn. I'm never going to stop. And yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable at first. The uncomfortable becomes comfortable when we do it enough. So ask yourself, who are you listening to and who do you not need to be listening to? Who's not serving you?
Mm-hmm.
And then the third, it's our mind. It's all a mental game. I remember sales was a bad word. Marketing was a bad word. The two things that actually make you money so that you can support other people. Isn't that funny? Like, don't show too much attention. Don't solve people's problems. That's basically what I was doing. And I didn't know I was doing it because, a bad salesperson, like they're over here to sell me something. Don't try to sell to people who don't want your thing. Just educate people. Have a conversation with people. Be a human being. Be the best human being that you can be. What I learned about business was the more pain points that I solve and the bigger the pain points that I solve, the better off my life becomes because of it. The more people I can serve. And so I got really, really intentional with the people that I serve and how I solve their problems because it makes my life easier and their life easier as I go through it.
Yeah. I love that personal approach. I think it's so important and it's so freeing. We've talked about that a lot on this show. It's so freeing to just be who you are and not have to feel like you have to be somebody. So
Yep.
I just am who I am. And I don't feel like I have to be somebody I'm not, you know?
100%.
I think that's important. Totally important. All right, Clifford. Well, I know, anyone can go look him up online. You're going to see, all of his previous days. You're going to see him, as a keynote speaker. But I know that you've got a couple of places that you play around online. So LinkedIn is one of them, and Facebook. We have them there. Do you want someone to DM you directly that they've heard you on the show? How would you like them to reach out to you?
Yeah. If you mentioned that you heard me on Colleen's show, what I'll do, I have the fighter's code. I'll give that to you. And I'll also give you a consult on me. And that's just really to work on the mental pieces, work on the heart pieces, and serve you in the way that I can best serve you so you can move forward and create the world that you want to create in your life.
Thank you. And if you are a company out there, or you're employed at a company and you're listening to this, you're like, oh my gosh, it would be so great to have Clifford at our next conference, as a speaker. He has some great, great stories that we didn't even really get into all of them today. So he's an amazing speaker. So you definitely want to get him on your next agenda for your next conference that you have, especially if you're really into hiring individuals that have been in sports. Then, yeah, I think that would be great for you to hire him to do that as well. And Clifford, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing this fighter's code and the formula and the steps that every single listener can take. They got so much from you already today, a lot. And so thank you. Thank you for that. And again, thank you for just not deciding, well, I can retire now. I'm done fighting. And now you're out there saying all of this that I've learned and everything that I have in my heart and all of the habits can be utilized for leadership, business, community, relationships. So thank you for pushing forward and working with so many entrepreneurs today so that they can do what they need to do and serve and change the world.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. And keep leaping forward. I love that, by the way. It's absolutely amazing. And it so speaks to you. The more we leap, the more we shock ourselves and the more we shock the rest of the world.
Heck yeah, man. So if you're listening to this, remember, you're the only you that's ever been. You're the only you that's ever going to be ever. That's it. You're it. So why not take leaps? See what happens. I mean, I've done some bad deals, but that does not stop me. I look at what's happening in the world with people that just keep getting beat down and they just keep standing up and rushing forward. And you have to do the same thing in life. So if this is your wake up call today, let it be your wake up call. If this is what hit you to the bone, let it hit you to the bone. Go connect with Clifford over on LinkedIn and Facebook. Make sure you start following him. You can see his content. You can DM him. He's a real person like me. I always say DM me, It's amazing how many people you can just DM on LinkedIn and they'll write you right back. So I highly encourage you to do that. Clifford is an amazing individual. We had a wonderful conversation today. Clifford, thank you so much for being with us. And to all of our listeners, don't forget, be you and be strong. Bye-bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed our show today, as our guests shared their secrets on designing their life by taking the necessary leaps to expand their influence and attract the right people and clients into their lives. To start these easy steps for yourself, be sure to visit www.colleenbiggs.net/freebies to download the 7 ways to increase your exposure today.